And I've been reading a lot of stuff about how like quantum mechanics is kind of changing the way that people look at the universe, and is almost like bordering on scientific proof that we really all are part of one thing, you know? And I think it's just a really exciting idea, and so it kind of, to me, it kind of leaks over into relationships and just relations of humans and between each other and where we're at.
Greetings. Welcome back to your Blue Dreamer broadcast. This is your most humble host as always, Dr. I, coming through with a new Blue Speak. Today I've got on two members of the band Cities You Wish You Were From. I've got vocalist, guitarist Eli, and rhythm guitarist, vocalist as well, Sara. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Good.
Was that an accurate introduction? Cool.
I'd say so.
Okay. Do you do vocal parts in Cities as well, Sara?
I do, yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I was right. I was good. All right, good. So let me start with this. I really don't know much about you guys. The only reason I really caught on to you was through Devin Whitaker, a mutual friend that I had him on a couple months ago, and then he shot your guys' video for Queen's Revenge, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
he had posted something recently, and it went along. He posted one of your songs, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I like that." And I asked him, do you know them? And he was just like, "Hit him up." I was like, "Okay," and I hit you guys up. But I really dig your guys' music. It sounds really cool. It's very rock and roll, And once I heard it, I was like, "All right, cool. These sound like guys I really want to talk to." So
Dope. Thank you.
I appreciate your style and a lot of elements of what you guys do, and I really want to dig into that. That's what I like to do when I hear something that I appreciate. I just like to pick it apart a little bit and just for my own curiosity. So thank you guys for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for your interest.
For sure, respect. So let me start with this. We'll go one at a time. Eli, when did you get into music? When did music penetrate your soul and just you were like, you know what, I'm all in 100%? What age, how young, whatever, and what kind of music, all of that.
I was raised in the Southern Baptist Church. My grandmother was the organist for the church that I went to.
Nice.
And we were she was an organist. My mom plays piano and guitar, and we were, as odds would have it, the only Caucasian family in a primarily all African American Southern Baptist church growing up. And I was enamored with the house band at the church and the way that a lot of Southern Baptist conferences worked back in the days. You weren't allowed to play secular music inside of the church building, and so when I was little, I really wanted to learn how to play guitar. And so I became enamored with some of the guys that were playing guitar.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they would go out to the parking lot. The church would feed everybody, and they would play secular music. And the whole band took their stuff out of the church and went to the parking lot and would play secular music out there, rhythm and blues and blues. And so I spent a couple of years just sitting and watching them and singing along. And then I begged my mom to get me like a Sears and Roebuck, like kind of crappy guitar. So she got me that. And then they taught me how to tune it, and I was allowed to sit near them but not plug it in.
Okay.
That was about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I was allowed to plug it in, but they turned the volume down. And then it sort of slowly crept in. By the time that was between probably fifth grade and the middle of junior high, and by the time middle of junior high happened, my cousin was sneaking me secular records. So he got me He got me Dookie, the
Nice.
Green Day album. He
Yeah.
got me the Spaghetti Incident by Guns N' Roses, and then it was just all uphill or downhill, however you want to frame it from there.
Yeah.
And so I just like sat down and, oh, like most of us, how we learn guitars. I sat down and learned every guitar part that I could learn. Um, and my instinct was to immediately start writing songs.
Yeah.
Um, so I just started writing really, really terrible songs, and then got a little bit better. Then got a little bit better. Started a band in high school. Had another band in college that got some good traction. We did some fun stuff in college, um, and then probably in my mid 20s, I met a friend of mine named Greg Griggs, who's since passed away, and he was a pretty extraordinary producer. We met completely on happenstance, and he was from Atlanta. We had a lot of the same influences, and I'd always sort of known instinctually how to write songs,
Yeah.
but he was the one that was like, "There's a way to write songs. There's a way to produce." And so he started showing me, you know, I would go to his house, and then we'd go to the studio together. I'm like, "What does this do? What does
Yeah.
that do?"
The tricks of the
And
trade and whatnot.
yeah,
Yeah.
all the fundamentals, like the
Right.
craft
Right.
of creating music. And it was sort of during that process that I was transitioning from a previous band, Eli and the Sound Cult, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. And I knew I wanted to make rock music. So I started writing music for what later became Cities You Wish You Were From. So that's
Nice.
it in a nutshell.
Yeah. I just think of you playing basically without an amp or anything. And I think that's a great way to learn electric guitar. You know, it's just your rhythms probably got to be pretty impeccable to, you know what I mean? Because you're just bending over like, okay.
Oh yeah, it was a labor of, not even a labor of love, a labor of obsession. I became obsessed. Most of the pictures of me as a little kid are singing and playing guitar.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. Awesome.
and luckily my parents weren't too terribly opposed, and then they became supportive, and now,
Awesome.
now I'm an old man, so I don't have to ask for anybody's permission. I can play guitar whenever I want.
Nice. And where are you guys from? Where are cities out of, basically? Like, where are you guys?
Sacramento
Okay.
proper.
Okay.
I grew up going back and forth from Southern California, this small sort of cowpoke town called Bakersfield that most people just stop in for gas.
Yeah.
And then we would go back and forth growing up from there to Oklahoma primarily.
Okay.
So that's where my roots are.
Nice. What about you, Sarah? Where did you start? Where did it all begin for you?
Yeah, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York,
Okay.
but I started music really here in Woodland in Sacramento. Is my audio coming through okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my dad was in the industry. He worked for Sony,
Okay.
BMG somehow, and I was like always inspired because he always came home with like boxes and boxes of CDs for me to listen
Wow.
to. I was like, all kinds of stuff, and I was really inspired. And my mom was really one of the ones that pushed me to start playing guitar when we were living out in Woodland. And I started taking lessons at the Watermelon Music in Davis.
Okay.
And it was with this guy, and I don't know if this is true still to this day, but he told me that he taught Billy Joe from Green Day how to play guitar in Oakland.
Nice.
And that this is like that was his job, was like teaching people how to play guitar at Watermelon Music, like
Wow.
in Davis.
Nice.
In his like older years. I don't know if that's true or not. I like to believe it because Green Day is like one of my favorite bands of all time.
That's a good synchronicity right there.
Yeah.
That's cool. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, that's the area, the Bay, the Northern California Bay Area connection, probably. I don't know exactly where Billy Joel is exactly from, but I know they come out of the Bay Area.
Oh yeah, they're from Oakland.
Yeah.
And this guy was too.
Okay.
So and he didn't really teach me how to like read music or anything like that. I was really like, he just kind of taught me how to play.
Yeah.
And I did about 6 months of that. And then I just said, screw this, I could do this myself.
Yeah.
And I kind of taught myself how to play from there. And I've just kind of been like that ever since.
I did the exact same thing. I took lessons maybe for like 2 months. I started learning Nirvana songs and I was like, oh, I can do this. And then I just kept going. I was like, I don't need lessons anymore. I'm good. I learned about a girl, and that was it. I was hooked. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
And just kept going from there. That's cool. Okay, do you play any other instruments, or do you play any keys, Eli? Since you grew up on keys?
Yeah, I play guitar, bass, a little bit of piano. I play drums. I used to play some brass instruments.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in my little home studio here. I have
Yeah.
a plethora of things just sort of laying around. So,
Nice.
yeah, anything with strings I can figure out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and then piano's pretty instinctual. I took some formal music training in college, which helped me get some more fundamentals down. I wish I would have taken more piano though. But yeah.
Do you know? Can you read music, or do you know any theory and anything, or like?
Yeah, I know theory. I can read a little bit of music, but I mean, yeah, we don't notate in
Right.
the cities.
Right.
We could start. Everybody could come to rehearsal. I could hand out sheet music. That'd be infuriating, probably. But no, I know the fundamentals of music theory and that sort of thing. So
cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Sarah?
No, like I said, I don't know theory too much. I know a few scales and I get by, and I could probably be better at that. But I'm comfortable with where I'm at, and actually Eli pushes me a lot. He's the whiz of the band. He's the brainchild of a lot of everything behind Cities You Wish You Were From. And I just kind of come in and support him where I can. But yeah, I mean, like I'm constantly, I'm trying to push myself in cities and taking on more lead roles as time goes on and fun. But
how long have you been playing guitar?
I've been playing since I was 16.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be 36 this year.
Okay, cool. 20 years. Nice. Cool. That's awesome. So has Cities always been a 4-piece band, or did it start with something else?
No, it started the first EP we recorded. Well, it started initially. I was like, okay, this is going to be a production project, and maybe I will license these songs.
Okay.
That was the initial intent. And I knew Tyler from my day job, and Tyler had briefly been in another band that I was in. And then he heard some of these demos. I think we went out for beers one day, and he heard some of the demos, and he was like, I would really like to play drums for you.
Okay.
This is the song, or this is the tale I always tell in interviews. And
sure.
And I told him no for like 6 months. I was like, you can't play drums. I've never seen you play drums. You can't play drums.
I don't believe you.
And even I wouldn't even let him come try, and had other drummers out, and they were all well and good. We didn't vibe. And at first I was like, I really want this to be a 2-piece, so I have to like vibe, and I have to be okay being in a van with this person. Some of them are great, and I was like, but I don't think I could be around you for days on end.
Sure.
And then I had him out, and since we had been friends for a while, we clicked immediately. We spoke that same language rhythmically that people do sometimes.
Yeah.
Where we're like, oh, we can transition without saying a transition. We can just feel when it's coming at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yeah, this will work. And we were a 2-piece. How long have we been together? 8 or 9 years. Tyler knows the exact date.
Okay.
We were a 2-piece. We briefly, over COVID, my then girlfriend, now distant ex-girlfriend, played bass, which was, I mean, God bless her. I hope she's well and good, but that was a terrible idea. Like, for a variety of reasons.
I've been in a band in that similar situation, and it does not end well.
Yeah. And then we were like, never again. But as happenstance would have it, during COVID, we were booked with another band called Sara and the Devil.
Okay.
And then I met Sara, and I was like, oh, I vibe with Sara. And then she was like, this is my boyfriend, and who is our bassist, Ira. And Ira had been our sound engineer at Goldfields. And I was like, I fucking know this guy. And I was like, then Sarah and I started doing some side projects together. And then at some point, I think Sarah said, like, if you guys ever want more people, like, we'd be down.
Oh yeah.
And I talked to Tyler, and Tyler was like, no. And then I talked to him again. I was like, I think this would be a good idea. And he was like, no. And then I said, let's just try it. And they
Okay.
came out, and it was the same thing. Like, we all sort of spoke the same language, and
Yeah.
it meshed really organically and really quickly.
Yeah.
And so that was that 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago? Yeah, something like that.
Years ago, yeah.
Nice.
So, and it just so, yeah, like you guys joined the band right after our album on Killer Kern came out, and then
Yeah.
we just sort of went full speed from there.
Nice. Very serendipitous, I would say. That's cool.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
can
that's rare.
tell in your rhythm, obviously you're the main songwriter, right? Obviously, I mean, since you and Tyler have
Mhm.
been working for so long, but I hear it in both of you. You guys do click well together, and I can tell in the rhythm. I'm a very rhythmic player, and everything I love most is very rhythm heavy. I'm not a shredder. I can't even solo, honest. I mean, I could if I really wanted to, but that's not my focus. My focus is just on rhythms. So when I hear bands that catch my ear in that way, it's so fulfilling, and I'm just like, okay. And that's why I was like, oh, I want to talk to these people and I want to see what's going on. And I can definitely hear it in what you guys are doing. My question for Sarah would be, have you so since there was material already established, how much material was already established when you got in, and what have you added so far since you've been in?
Yeah, like Eli was saying, Ira and I joined at the time that they had just dropped their record with Killer Turns out of Bakersfield, and they had a whole album established. So really, it was just at that point learning how to fit into this project that was already established.
Right.
And luckily for me, I was already a big fan of Cities. I had like memorized whole albums of songs, and so it was really easy for me to just like naturally pick up and remember parts, and be inspired to contribute in certain ways. And Eli makes it easy to do that. And and he's really helped me build up my gear as well, so that when we're playing live too, I have a lot more to a bigger palette to paint. He got me on the Helix.
Nice.
What is the name of that thing?
It's the Helix, the Helix, the Line 6
processor.
Helix processor.
Yeah. Line 6 Helix processor, and that's been really, really fun to play around with. And that's really, I really love playing live shows with these guys, because you can really feel the energy, and again, it's really easy to fit in that way. And then I guess ever since then, we've done a few things with me and Ira. We've put out Queen's Revenge, which that's just got me on guitar, but for vocals, we did a remake of Bad One, which was on the record already. Eli had already done it, and we just decided to redo it in a new and fresh way with me as lead. That was really fun. So we're going to be playing a show at Old Ironsides. We're going to be playing a lot of these songs on February 8th. So shameless plug. If anybody's in Sacramento, Old Ironsides, February 8th, 7 p.m. It's going to be a good show.
Nice.
Anyway, but so we've got Bad One, and then we did done a few other things too. We've got a new one coming out called Power. That's got me on lead as well too.
Cool.
And we're just kind of experimenting at this point.
Yeah. Kind of building off of what the foundation, right? Like, what's already been established, and adding more colors to the palette, I would say,
Yeah.
That's cool.
100%.
That's cool. I love to talk about gear as well. And one thing I noticed is you do like to use effects, and so I want to know, how much does that contribute to writing or just overall contextual, like visualization, sonically? Like what is, do you like to use effects a lot? Or, I mean, you're using digital gear, obviously. So, I know I'm one that loves effects. I don't rely on them, but I love a good phaser. I love a good delay. I love, and to me, they add colors to things sometimes, and not to lean on them, but just, in a good bridge or in a good solo, or, something, just a little more texture to kind of alleviate the repetition of riffs.
Yeah, for sure. So we do something a little interesting, like gear wise, as Sarah was mentioning, like when she I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're a relatively well-known like indie band in this town.
Okay.
But coming from a background where I'd been in bands that toured pretty heavily,
Hmm.
we set this band up as with professional standards. So when they got in the band, I was like, well, we all run in-ears, we all play to a click,
Yeah.
we run transitions. We have an SPDSX or Ableton that runs transition sounds.
Yeah.
If there's synth,
Yeah.
we run synth in the background.
Backing tracks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the basics of our live sound, Sarah and I have dialed it in where we dial our sound in very similarly to the way that you would if you were doing professional live production. So like if I think the model I use, I run from the Helix to a power amp. I can't remember the name, and then directly into a cabinet. So we both play live cabinets for feedback and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
But I run like a JCM, like a 1967 JCM 500 or something like that, which is pretty MIDI high end sort of stuff.
Hmm.
And then
On stage?
on stage,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
the model that Sarah runs, I know because I was finicky and made her change her amp model a couple
Oh,
times,
yeah.
is an orange tiny terror. So
Okay.
when we're playing together, it fills out the whole sonic spectrum
Yeah.
because orange tiny terrors tend to be pretty low heavy.
Yeah.
And then in terms of effects, what you'll hear a lot of, like we do a lot of EQ cut. I love a good like dropout in a
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
We use a lot of pitch stuff,
Yeah.
a lot of pitch fuzz. Live on my board, probably the thing that stands out. I think even Devon mentioned this once. He was like, "Do you have three pitch pedals?" And I was like, "Yeah, but they all do different stuff." So I
Right.
have like an ultra whammy that just does like the record slowdown effect. That's
Yeah.
the only thing it's there for.
Yeah.
I have the third man, what is it called? The triple pedal thing that goes an octave down, an octave up, and then does a punch in the middle.
Yeah.
And then sort of the texturing, the longer we've gone, the more I've gotten away from this idea that we have to reproduce the record.
Right. That's what I was just
So
gonna ask. You try and keep it, whatever you do on the album, you try and reproduce it live.
we've gotten farther and farther away from that just because it makes it more interesting to go
Yeah.
like I'll switch out the effects I put on a solo all the time, which must drive them absolutely crazy because sometimes I'll like hit whatever the patch is for the solo and it does not work. It's just like a weird wobbly like flange that I set too high.
Yeah.
Um, but you have to introduce something like that. And then
Some
yeah,
variables.
you have some delays. Sarah has like some ambient reverby stuff. I think you have a particle matter in there somewhere. And
Mhm.
yeah, so but it's pretty like live, it's pretty straight ahead, all things being equal.
Yeah.
It's usually clean, a little dirty, or just like, you know, pedal to the metal,
Yeah.
really rocking loud. So
Yeah.
those are three speeds.
Yeah, that's cool because, I notice there's a lot of diversity in your sound. You know, I was listening to today, and I even pulled out a certain song that I was like, oh, I want to ask about that song, Bull. I love that song. That's a cool ass riff. It sounds dope, you know. And so, you know, I've been in band since I was like 16 years old. And right now, maybe the last 2, almost 3 years, I've been just working on solo. I started like a solo project. And I've got into with like a big ZZ Top phase, you know, and I was like, I want to do more. Like when I show people, they're like, "Oh, it kind of sounds like Queens of the Stone Age." I'm like, "All right, that's cool. I like that." I don't really listen to them. I know who they are. I'm well aware of them, but that's what I was going for, a little more bluesy rock, you know.
Yeah.
I've always been all everything cranked and just loud, and you know, now I'm using small combo amps and just scaled it down, but the rhythm, like I like the rhythm of the dialed back distortion, and not so just, you know, I've always had triple rectifiers forever, you know. I'm a Mesa guy. I love Mesa. And now it's, you wouldn't even, if I showed people what I was playing, they'd be like, is that you? I'm like, yes. You know, I don't know if it's just getting older or what, but I went through a ZZ Top phase, and I was like, I want to do stuff like that. And Bull, I heard that, and I was like, oh, that's definitely up my alley, you know. And but your songs just kind of are all over the place, and I love that. You know, that's so cool. There's such variety in just one album, you know. And
Yeah,
even the
thank
one
you.
I put on the playlist, Take, another one that still has, I said, it kind of reminds me of Queens as well. It's got that bounce to it, and it's even the way you sing, it's got kind of an attitude to it, you know, similar, you know. So I definitely appreciate that stuff, you know, a lot. And I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just, you know, so I would ask you, where does that come from for you, you know, in that writing those kinds of songs?
I mean, take, and Bull was just an attempt to write a really good blues rock song.
Cool.
And it's a prime example too of what changes live, because live, um, we cut out and there's like a little bass solo in the bridge, and then we end, and Sarah and I do something that as a kid I was like, I'll never do it, but we do sort of like a schlock rock, like hair metal synchronized solo at the
Nice.
end, a
Nice.
harmonized synchronized solo on the
Yeah.
seventh. So
Yeah.
that's that's been really fun. But in terms of the rhythms, um, I mean, a lot of the rhythmic complexity that we've gotten again came from like working with other people that were much better at that than
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I always knew when I heard something that I liked, and then it was talking to people like Gray and several other producers, and they go, you know, you want in every song you want to leave space, and you want to do something intentionally. So if something hits on the beat, you want it to hit on the beat with the intent to evoke a certain emotional response from the
Right.
person that's listening to it. And when you hit off of the beat, um, or you're filling space between the downbeats, you're creating a frantic nature, which is something you hear in like take,
Yeah.
or like Queens when you're playing on a weird time signature, because that's 5/4 3/4 4/4. It
Yeah.
goes back and forth from those.
Yeah.
You want people to feel a little lost, and then they'll come back to you when it comes to the 4/4, which is in keeping with the mood of that song. So I try to be intentional when we think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And when like we redid Bad One, and I pitched that to Sarah, I said, I think that's that's a song about heartbreak. And I said, but I think if it has a female vocalist with like a little bit of grit, it can become something else. So
Yeah.
that's really curious. And so we did that and released a new version of that. So yeah, just trying to be intentional, allowing some room for serendipitous creation, but trying to guide the ship in a specific direction whenever possible.
For sure. And I wanted to ask Sarah about Sarah and the Devil. How long ago did that start?
Yeah, Sarah Devil started about, I want to say 2017, 2018. And Before that, I was in and out of bands, and I was kind of always like, you know, off to the side. I never really had an opportunity to do something that was just for myself. And so I kind of took the leap of faith and started something, you know, pre-COVID. And I had written a few songs and recorded some music at Think Tank Music with Jesse Haynes and Jesse Zabo. And that's how I met Elijah. Is like they were in my band when we were playing with Cities, and we were doing, I can't remember the name of that series. That was so much fun.
I
What
can't
was the
remember the
name of
name of it.
that?
Like green. That wasn't the green light thing, was it? No, that was something else.
No, I can't remember. But I was also
Co-
playing music with Mateo Briscoe too at that time. And so yeah, and Sarah and the Devil continues on. It's something that's kind of been in the background,
Yeah,
and I kind of put that on pause to focus on Cities. And
for sure.
there was actually a short bit where Eli and I were writing like a musical during COVID.
Well, interesting.
Because Tyler was actually really sick during that time. And he had some health things he was going through. I don't want to say too much, but
Sure.
Once that kind of resolved itself, then Cities kind of was revived, and Tyler was, you know, healthy enough to start playing again. We kind of just threw all our efforts into Cities.
Nice.
And yeah, and so we have a show coming up, and we're going to be putting out new music this whole year. But also Sarah and the Devil is going to be, you know, I have an EP that I'm going to be recording this year as well too. It's going to be super personal, and
Nice.
I'm super excited to put it out.
And what kind of feel and intention do you put into Sara and the Devil? Is it more, like you said, personal, but do you take a certain approach? Like, you know, Cities is very rock and roll, you know, is it? I haven't heard too much of Sara and the Devil, but, you know, I'm just asking you personally, like what is your mindset when you write for that project?
Yeah, you know, I talk a lot about mental health in my songs. I talk a lot about my personal struggle, and I like to connect with people in that way through my music and through my songwriting. And I try and keep it simple. And with this new album, I want it to be, you know, it's going to be really personal. So I want it to feel really warm, and it's going to be really stripped down, like pretty raw, just like guitar and vocals and maybe a little bit of reverb. And I want you to hear like the creaks in the ground, you know, I don't know, like I want it to be super raw. So yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm going right now. In the past, I've experimented and I've kind of been all over the place. I have acoustic songs out, and then I have, you know, like a rock and roll song with Eli that we put out, and then I did some stuff. We took one of the songs off of the musical, and we kind of redid that. And I worked with several other producers too to put that song out too. So yeah, I've just kind of been all over the place, kind of similar to Eli. And I think that's why we connect a lot too, because we have a vast variety of different types of music that we're interested in.
For sure. What was the theme of the musical?
Oh man.
You can give me the gist.
It was about two songwriters.
Nice.
It was
There you go.
The narrative sounds self-indulgent when you say it out loud. It's about two songwriters and their battles with mental health and substance abuse. And at one point, one songwriter goes one way and the other one goes the other way, and they're trying to like reach into the abyss and pull each other back to some sense of sanity. It turned out my dad was an actor and director and producer in musical theater for years and years, and it turned out like the farther we went down this whole, we even did a show where we we did a small intimate show where we previewed some of these songs, and it went well, And I think the only reason it died on the vine was yeah, Tyler got healthy again, and so we could start playing again. And B, we were like, man, writing a musical is really fucking hard.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I started talking to my dad and some of his friends, and I go, what does it take to produce a musical? And they were like, more time and money than you could possibly imagine. And I was like,
Exactly.
Jesus Christ, okay. It's not, and we really thought about it. We're like, what does it mean to put together a black box musical with only two people? And I'm like, it means we can't really do anything else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there may be a time when Sarah and I sit down and we go, okay, we're ready to do this. But yeah, you have to like, you got to drop everything to do something like that to make it worth watching, and to promote it correctly.
Yeah.
You got to dive all the way in. So
how long would it be, would you say? What's what's an acceptable length of a musical to actually call
I
it
mean,
that?
typically a musical runs 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
A
Good.
black box musical, something smaller, could run like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
So you imagine touring that.
Yeah.
You
That's
have to
crazy.
have, at least a crew, a small crew. You got to be prepared to do that. You go to a city, you do it 3 or 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I
It's
I don't
crazy.
know. I would love to do it.
For sure.
I don't know if we're in a place to do it. But we'll find out. It's still, the songs are on my machine right here. They're waiting. So if we decide to do it, all we got to do is pull the trigger. But
Nice.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask this question, just something that I think of, and like I said, when I heard your music, I was very much interested, and I appreciate it. I'm one that loves heavy music, and I don't like genres. I don't like I don't like all the details of trying to call something something. To me, it's all art, it's music, whatever you want to call it. But the things that I focus on, especially for this, my broadcast, and the mixes that I put out, I call it all heavy. It's heavy music to me, whether it's emotionally heavy or rhythm heavy, or I don't know, content like lyrically heavy. I just call it heavy music. And rock and roll is definitely heavy music to me. And just off the top of my head, when I think of you and what I've listened to, you guys are playing rock and roll. To me, that's such a general term, but a broad term that means something. I prefer the term rock and roll over heavy metal or anything else. Because it's just, it rocks. If it rocks, that's what everybody says. All that shit, that song rocks. It's like, exactly, like, you get it. It's heavy. It's heavy. Why did you choose heavy music? Why did you choose rock and roll? Both of you. Why do you feel that it's something that you need to be a part of?
I mean, I think mine was in response to the band Eli and the Sound Cult that I was in. We were sort of an experimental, like electronica,
Okay.
rock adjacent band, and I think I just wanted something that was like paint peeling. Just like, I was really into the band Whores at the time, and
Okay.
I was getting back into um, some like Dillinger Escape Plan and Queens of the
Sure.
Stone Age and that sort of thing. And I was like, I I was in a lot of rock bands growing up, and I was like, there's a certain energy,
Yeah.
and I got a few years left where I can like expel this energy. So I want to
Yeah. Yeah.
see if we can put something together. But yeah, I would say for ease of digestibility, we tell people, well, we're a rock and roll band,
Yeah.
but we have blues songs, we have stuff that someone might call indie rock. It's easier it's easier to say what we're not,
Right.
which is like, we're not a metal band. We have songs that are on the edge of metal, like Queens of the Stone Age is on the edge of metal.
Sure.
Our new song that Sarah sings on Power
Yeah.
is on the edge of like hair metal,
Yeah.
or it's very Coheed Cambria adjacent sort of sounds.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about calling yourself a rock band is it gives you a lot of different
Yeah.
avenues and venues. I always think of I think of the interview with Mos Def, where I can't remember what magazine was interviewing him, but they put out the video of it, and they said they asked Mos Def, is Drake hip hop?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
And he was like,
He was
you
hesitant to
know,
answer though,
yeah, it
he was
was
very
long
hesitant.
pause, and then he
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
man, they play Drake at Target. So is he
Exactly.
good?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good, but he's
Yeah.
probably not hip hop. Like, he's pop music.
Yeah.
And I would go, yeah, well, we're probably never going to be played at Target. So we're probably like a legitimate rock and roll
Yeah,
band.
there you go.
I wouldn't turn down that Target money, though. If they want to start
Exactly.
paying it, I'll take it.
Exactly. You got that edge to you.
Yeah, we sing a little too much about sex, drugs, and other things. So I don't know if we're a Target-y band,
Well, I don't know.
but
Target's pretty they've gone off the rails a little bit, so they might.
hey, Target, if you're listening, like, fucking spin that shit, man. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Pay me.
Pay me.
What about you, Sarah? What is heavy music to you? You know, like
Oh man, it's like, I don't know, when I'm playing it, when I'm writing it, when I'm playing it, like it's like a character for me, and it's like just an avenue to channel like this like energy that I need to get out. And I've always had that. Like my parents let me listen to Green Day when I was like, 6, 7, 8 years old growing up. So I kind of started with that, and went from there to like Red Hot Chili Peppers was a big band of a favorite band of mine, and then I kind of like steered to like System of a Down and Rage Against the Machine, and I've always, that's just, it comes natural to me, like that type of rock and roll, and I wanted to be a part of something like that.
Yeah.
And Cities allows me to do that. Like it allows me to be this other thing that I've always wanted to be. Like childhood me, like looking at me now in this band would be like, oh my god, she would think that was the coolest thing.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you guys Failure fans? Do you guys like Failure?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
Philly's great.
Yeah, I always jot down like band names if I'm listening to your guys' music. I put Queens, Pumpkins, Failure, Baroness. These are kind of vibes I get from your guys' music, and I was just like, it's just notes I always write down as I'm hitting the points, So
Yeah, we get
It's
Queens of the
interesting you
Stone
bring
Age a
up-
lot. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Man.
It's interesting to bring up the Pumpkins though, because we actually Eli put us onto this brand called Reverend.
Reverend, yeah, and I was gonna ask that too. Yeah, I saw you guys playing the Reverend guitars too as well. I was like, are you guys sponsored? Yeah. Shit, that's cool.
We are.
We are sponsored.
Dope. Hell yeah. No, those guitars are so sick, dude. I've never played one actually, like in person, but I know Billy Corgan fucking loves those guitars. So
yeah, I think, do you have 2 now or do you have 3?
I have 2 now.
Yeah.
I should names it. The last one I got was the Billy Corgan signature series, and I just like every other guitar I played, like I can't play them anymore. I can only play this one. It's my favorite guitar I've ever owned.
They look awesome, man. I love the way they look. They're such style. I'd use Jazz Masters. I play Jazz Masters, so I love Fender Jazz Masters, like strictly Jazz Masters. That's all I really, really like. But when I see those guitars, I'm like, oh, these look so dope, man. Great style.
Yeah, we went through like the early years. I mean, I've sold a lot of guitars.
Yeah, I see a Jag.
Believe it or not, there's only 14 in this room.
Only. Yeah.
But I started on a Hagstrom Viking 2 Pro, which I really liked for a long time.
Nice.
And then ran into the Dave Grohl issue of like the louder you turn up because it's a hollow body, it just like it's impossible to control.
Yeah.
And then I went to a Jag and played the Jag for many, many years.
Yeah.
And then I played an Airline baritone for a couple of years. And then I think Tyler turned me on to Reverend.
Yeah.
And I played one and I was like, this is a pretty it's interesting because it's a workhorse of a guitar.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're not versatile, but it's like a hammer hits a nail, a wrench turned, and it just does what it does, and it does it well.
Yeah.
They have roasted maple necks, so
yes,
they rarely go out of tune.
Yeah.
And they're not inexpensive because they're high quality guitars, but they're not they're not so expensive that you can't take them on the road. And so
Right.
we got one, and then we had a publicist for a while, Allie, who was fantastic. And when we started working with her, she said, what do you want more than anything? And I said, we want to be sponsored by Reverend.
Okay.
Like, that's the penultimate goal. And like a month in,
Yeah.
she sent me an email and said, I just heard back from them. You guys are sponsored by Reverend.
Fuck
Like,
yeah.
what do you want? And at that time I already had 2 Reverends, so I
Dope.
bought 2 more.
You're like, I want my money back, and then I'll take
Yeah.
the free ones as well. No, just kidding.
And they're great. Reverend treats us very well. We all
Oh, yeah.
play them now.
How are the necks? Are they pretty? I like thick. I like those like baseball bat necks. I like the
You
old
can get a
60s
thick
style.
neck.
Yeah.
You can get a thick neck one. Some of them have the big baseball neck. I think all of mine are pretty Strat adjacent. So not super fast, not like Ibanez skinny fast.
Right.
Um,
Like the D,
I like
they
the
call it the D, not the
unfinished.
C. You know, there's the C neck, and then
Yeah.
there's a D that's a little slimmer.
It's like a V to D. You
Okay.
know how
Yeah.
they have sort of a ridge in the middle
Yeah.
a little bit, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit different. But they thought a lot about. I follow Greg, who founded the company, and he thought a lot about how these initial necks are shaped. And now they have a bunch of signature models and stuff, and
Yeah.
so you can get them in every shape and size. This is the latest one. This was
Don't drop it.
no, I'm trying not to. So this is the pride and joy right now.
Oh, nice. Telly style.
This is the East Sider. And when they announced this is the Pete Anderson East Sider. This is 28 of 100.
Nice.
So you can't get them anymore. This was the first like limited edition guitar I ever got.
Thing looks thick, man. It almost looks like a Les Paul body.
It's heavy, it's girthy, but
Yeah.
it has Les Paul vibes, and it has like, but
Yeah.
it can go full metal because it has this
It's got a hot rails. Yeah.
stack hot rails in there.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's a monster. I love that guitar.
That's sick.
So
Yeah, I would love to play a telly like that. You know, a telly that sounds more like a Les Paul. You know, like humbucker
and it has
style.
split coils. Like they do cool stuff where they're like, we're gonna put splits in everything that we can. We're gonna
Yeah.
put a bass roll off knob so you can take it from like metal to twang
Yeah,
in a few twists and switches. And that's really
it's cool.
I could not recommend Reverend guitars enough.
Dope. Well, they look cool, very streamlined. They look sick, and that's why I was like, oh man, I wonder if they're sponsored. But that's
Yeah.
really really cool. I know we're on a time crunch a little bit, so I'm gonna skip the influential songs and just go straight to your songs. I would really like to play. So
Okay.
if that's cool. So I always ask, the the artists that I interview, give me 3 influential songs and, beginning, middle, and most recent. And then also, the songs that you guys, usually when I have multiple people, I kind of have them kind of collaborate and be like, okay, you guys give me 3 of the ones that you want me to play, but kind of that you agree on for whatever reasons. And so the first song was Queen's Revenge. So let's check it out for sure. Queen's Revenge.
Stones and trials I can't see, but for you I have only say. She has scars from men with no love, no chance, and soon they'll have no knees.
So why that song?
Oh, why Queens?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important because it's the first thing where we we recorded that. Tyler and I recorded that down at Noise Feed Studios in Southern California
Mm-hmm.
um, for our last full-length album, and then and then very shortly after that, Sarah and Ira joined the band, and they were asking what that song. We were talking about what that song was about, and it was about me having dated some folks who had been in really terrible relationships, and like um as the romantic partner of a person who had trauma from previous relationships, there's that feeling of like you want to empathize, but also I think I can safely say this, like as a relatively masculine dude, I'm like it also makes me fucking pissed. Like I want to like, if it were my place, I would go beat the shit out of those guys.
Right.
And so that song was like a struggle with like, I want to protect you and I want to be there for you, but I also like I want to seek vengeance on your behalf. And when we started learning that song, um and then started talking to Devon about the video, I said, oh, it's interesting, like what if we came at the video from a point of like empowering this queen like figure who
Yeah.
Sarah plays in the video,
Yeah.
um, which was only made more apparent that it was the correct decision when we started rehearsing that song. And there's a big scream in the middle, and I was like, I can't really scream in the middle of our set and like still have my voice. And Sarah was like, I can metal scream,
Hell
and we
yeah.
were like, wait,
Fuck
what? And then
yeah.
so we added that into the video, and then as happenstance would have it, when we started writing Power, we're like, oh, I like this idea of this queen character, because it's a complicated thing. Like it's a complicated thing to be in a relationship. It's a complicated thing to be close to someone who has trauma, because you can't really fix them. You can't really do. It's
Yeah.
something you just have to endure, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of emotions around that.
Yep.
And then it's a complicated thing to be an empowered woman in the world
Yep.
in general.
Yep.
And so so Power continues to play off that theme. And yeah, we'll see how many songs the queen gets. I like writing for that character.
Oh yeah.
It's really fun to see how far that can go.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that was Queen's Revenge. So next up, we've got Wars. Let's go.
Drifting quickly can be the thing we do. We're close to closure now, but not tomorrow. You are among the persons I'll save a sea for, but this solution is something we can't prove. The weight of darker times helps our hearts grow. You lost when you made room for that love. It's all a conjuring and a wonder. Like when your father fails to love your mother.
So why that song?
Who chose that one? Was that me or you? I couldn't remember.
I think I did.
Oh yeah. Why that song,
Why
Sarah?
that song, Sarah?
Oh man. You know, I think that song is about, you know, the struggles of dealing with relationships that, you know, people don't talk about. And all of us in the band are in relationships, and it's kind of complicated because Ira and I are in relationship in the band. But this song, you know, really encapsulates the fact that, like, you know, everybody goes through hard times, and we've been through a lot of hard times together. And we always make it out the other end and try and make something good out of it. And I really like this song because I feel like that message is very apparent in this song. Is like, you know, like we could fight and we could get, you know, there could be bad things that could happen or whatever. But at the same time, we're always on the same page and we can get through anything.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And we actually did a really cool music video to this song last year as well.
Nice.
Travis, our buddy Travis did it, and it's just like, it's kind of like docu-style, and you get to really know like us and like the environment that we all play in. We recorded it in Eli's studio, and that's where we rehearse, you know, every week. And
Nice.
the song's very personal in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to both Devon Whitaker and Travis Frucci, probably the two best cinematographers in town.
Devon's a man, bro. Like I've started following him a couple of years ago on Instagram. And then, you know, he was posting Boy Indigo shit, and I was like, ooh, I like that too, you know? So finally we got to talk. It took a while for me to get a hold of him, but now we're constantly in contact. And like I said, he posted something with your music on. I was like, ooh, who's that? He's like, hey, I shot the video. Check him out. I was like, all right, cool. Respect. Like, I love that little community, you know, that the way things just work out in that way. It's cool.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Oh, sorry. I met Devon through work, actually.
Nice.
I get the opportunity to work on docuseries and stuff, and for a television station, and Devon was actually filming one of the projects that I had put together.
Yeah.
And when we met, we just kind of like kicked it off, and we ended up knowing all of the same people, so we kept in contact. And when Cities was like ready to do music videos, I knew exactly who I was calling.
Oh, yeah.
And ever since then, you know, we've been really good friends too. And he's a really good friend of the band. And man, yeah, like Boy Indigo, like he's so talented, and
Yeah.
that project is really killer.
Yeah, I can't wait
Yeah.
till his new release comes out. He said it's coming out sometime this year. So I was like, all right, cool. It's gonna be dope, man. Super excited for sure. It's funny. Something just came to me when I was listening to that song right now. You know, when I first heard it, that's kind of why I brought up Failure. It kind of reminds me of Failure. But right now, I was listening to it and it reminds me of Hum. I was like, oh, I hear some hum in there a little bit.
I'm a huge Hum fan.
Got
Yeah,
it.
that song, we recorded that, the bulk of that, we recorded that at Noise Feed too, and it didn't make the album because we released the album on vinyl and it literally wouldn't fit.
Wow.
And we were like, well, what's the song? As irony would have it, we're like, well, what's the song that sort of like dips in mood? And it was Wars. So Wars was on the chopping block, and
Yeah.
then it sat there, and we're like, we really like this. We don't know if anybody will like it because it's like a 7-minute
Yeah.
rock ballad with a really self-indulgent solo at the end.
Yeah.
And we released it, and now people like, it's one of the songs that people like the most. We're like, really, you want this 7-minute ballad? Okay.
I think it's a great
But
single in that same aspect. You know, it's a 7-minute single. That's good. You got a good little meal right there.
and it's odd too, because I always think like when I'm writing like, it's a really emotional, the name of the album that it was supposed to be on is Someday This Pain Will Be Useful, because and I wrote the bulk of this album while like Tyler was going through a ton of medical stuff. My buddy Gray, who I've mentioned many times, suddenly passed away at
Yeah.
35.
Yeah.
We were just coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And I was reading like a bunch of Marcus Aurelius, and then I read I think it's the quote is from, can't remember the Greek poet, but it's the quote is someday this pain too will be useful. And that song is like from a time that maybe we're still in, but we were definitely in during COVID, where I'm like,
Yeah.
people didn't feel like they could talk about anything to anybody they disagreed with. And I
Yep.
was like, man, I knew friends that like weren't talking to their parents because they disagreed
Yep.
on politics or whatever was going on. And I
Yep.
was like, all I could think of, like, my family is very politically and religiously diverse. And I was like, yeah, but at the end of the day, they're your family, man. Like,
Exactly.
you live and die by that.
Yeah.
So if we can't talk about shit that hurts us,
Yeah.
what's the point? Like, what
Yeah.
are we all going to die alone in a bubble? And so that's where that line, like, it is the season of pain we give each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're in a season where you're like, we're going to have to hurt each other, and the important thing is that we just stay.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you can do. You can't agree, you just stay in it, you hang in there. So it's, to Sarah's point, it's about the personal stuff, and it's also about the societal stuff. Like, sometimes it's just about like, I don't agree with you, you don't
Yeah.
agree with me, but let's just stay in this and let's agree in each other's shared humanity.
For sure. You know, because we are all made of the same ingredients. You know,
Mhm.
and even as music, you know, I tend to say the music is infinite and we just borrow from it. You know, it's always there. It's like the ether. It's all around us. We just pull from it and take what we want from it. You know, nature does. Music doesn't care. It's just like, yeah, go ahead. Here, have some more.
Yep.
Here. Oh, is that too much? Okay, well, take what you need, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of learning to know yourself, to be like, okay, what do I need to sustain myself, and what is too much and what's not enough? And, you know, so personal situations are the same thing, you know, I believe, and that's the way I see things, you know?
Yeah, there's the Nick Cave anecdote where he says the muse lands near you and you can engage or not, but that idea is going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so you have to decide if you're ready to engage with whatever that idea that the muse brings.
Yeah.
And that's evident by the way that genres develop too. Like, everybody sort of has the same idea at the same time, and it's like, well, the muse landed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Muse landed, a bunch of people touched it, and now we have hip hop stars charting on country music stations, and
Yeah,
I'm like, this
exactly.
is fucking dope, dude. Everybody, this is awesome.
Yeah, and country music's blowing up huge right now, man. I play
Oh,
a
it's
lot.
having
I
a
make a
heyday.
lot of country playlists now of new artists, and it's just they're awesome. They're so awesome. I'm trying to get. I finally booked a country artist to interview in like 2 weeks, and I'm so stoked. I'm like, I have so many questions. Like,
Oh, I got a lot of friends that are in production in Nashville. So if you want more, I
cool.
got them for you.
I will hit you up for sure, for sure. Cool. Well, let's get to the last song. This is Power. So this is not yet released, right?
Yeah, this comes out the 28th of January, right before our show on February 8th, on Tyler's birthday.
Dope.
This is we rushed as much as we could to get this done. So yeah, this is the continuation of the Queen story.
Cool. Let's check it out. Great song. I like that song a lot. So this is the Queen speaking now?
It is. Yeah, when Sara and I
love the attitude. She's like, come on, that's it. We're done with the with the madness.
When I wrote this song, I had started to write lyrics, and I approached Sara about singing lead because I said, I like this idea. My wife had shown me this French movie called he's not, is it called He's Not a Good Man? He's not a good man. I think it's He's Not a Good Man. And it's this French comedy where it starts out with this sort of not sort of, like, chauvinistic guy in modern day France who's a womanizer and is the head of a advertising company. and then he goes outside and he bumps his head, and then the gender roles, when he wakes up, the gender roles in the entire world are reversed
Oh, that's funny.
in a very like definitive way, meaning it's not just like women have the power and men have less power or have the feminine equivalent of it's like I was watching this and I was like, oh, this is incredibly uncomfortable, and my wife was laughing, and because like there's scenes where he's like pulling like trying to put stuff in his pockets and there's no pockets in the jeans,
That's funny.
and he's like getting frustrated because men are just like dismissing him,
Yeah.
or women are just dismissing him. It's like, he's
Yeah.
like, what is going on? You're not listening to my ideas. And I was like, what if we wrote a song from the perspective where it's like a queen being like, you should be so lucky that I would even give you an audience.
Yeah.
And it was my wife who was like, no, that's fucking real, man. Like, that's real. Like, there are dudes, especially in the corporate world, who are just like, you're lucky to even be here. Like, why are you complaining?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fucking nuts. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me as a guy who was raised by two strong women. I'm like, that there are really guys like that. And she's like, that's most guys.
What
So
about
we're
you,
like,
Sarah?
okay,
How do you
well,
like?
what if we just like point that out? Like, what
Yeah.
if we just shine a spotlight and we make this character of a queen who's just like, who goes through this, like, you should be lucky
Yeah.
that you're even allowed to be in my presence. And then that's the end of that second verse where she just
Yeah.
like, I'm tired of this. And then it's like
Yeah.
ominous. And you're like, that feeling of, and Sarah and I talked about it too, that feeling of like a guy in power just being bored
Yeah.
and that turning to a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, I like that from a female perspective. And then Sarah wrote power, you wrote the line power in an interstellar omniverse.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't even know what that means. And it's like, oh, this is what power would look like. And then we came up with the line of, you would cower if I had, meaning the queen or Sarah
Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
you would cower if I had the power that you have every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, that's fire right there. Like that's real talk.
I love your voice on that, Sarah. It sounds so cool. It sounds very like a quiet strength. Like there's, I don't know. It's the delivery and it's the tone of your voice has this like almost not. I don't want to say childish. I don't mean it in that, but like I don't know how to put it into words. I would have to hear it again. But does that make any sense?
Yeah, I guess like soft but powerful at the same time is
Yeah.
kind of what I was going for. Like it's
Yeah.
like this calmness and this
Calmness. Yes, exactly.
power.
Yeah.
You know.
Like a confidence, but with your voice is, you know, it's soothing, yet you're like, no, I'm saying something, listen, you know. And it's like, that's so cool. I love the tonality of
Thank
it.
you.
That's great.
Thank you. Yeah,
That's
that was
awesome.
fun.
Cool. So where can people find you guys? You said you're putting out just the single Power on the 28th?
Yeah, we're just putting up the single. You can go to citiesyouwishyouwerefrom.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Anywhere you can get music. Apple Music's. I reluctantly point people to Spotify.
No, Spotify sucks.
Yeah. If you have to listen and you only have Spotify, go for it.
Yeah.
If you're hearing this, I highly advise that you switch to Tidal or Apple Music.
Yeah.
And then Killer Kern, I think they may or may not have copies of our last album on vinyl. We still have, no, I don't think we have any more copies, but yeah, streaming platforms, that sort of thing.
Cool.
Yeah, come out February 8th.
Yeah.
Old Ironside. It's gonna be a good show.
What about you, Sarah? Instagram?
Yeah, you can find me on all the streaming platforms too for Sara and the Devil. I'll be putting some music out. I can't decide if I'm going to do 5 separate singles or if I'm going to do a little EP. But yeah, follow me on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff. YouTube. I have a music video that I actually did with Devon and Eli wrote the song Oh So Quiet. So you can check that out on YouTube. And yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I appreciate it. I'm a fan, so I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on you guys. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool. And also thank you to anyone out there listening, paying me with your attention. This is your Blue Dreamer broadcast. I'm your host, as always, Dr. I. Always telling you, stay tuned, stay connected. Much love and respect. And until next time, peace.